Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this. Okay, welcome to Uncovered. I've got this amazing man, Dan, to have a bit of a chat to today. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me. Good to kind of talk off camera, and hopefully we can have a good chit chat today on camera.
Yeah, for sure. So, Dan, what is it that you do? What is your magic, and what do you bring to the table into this world?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a story behind me. I'll try and condense it down. Otherwise, this could be quite a long podcast. Very much I've been able to kind of mix the fitness world with the tech world. And as a result, we've created, multiple businesses that help people in all areas, whether that's personally or professionally. So to condense that down, I've always played sports my whole life. I've always been interested in computers since I was 12 years of age. And I've done every course that you can imagine to try and upskill online. Working as an in-person trainer, and then we took that online. We used strategies to obviously build our online following. And now I basically teach people kind of how to do that with their own business. Obviously, fitness is one aspect, and that kind of runs itself. We have a team of people who now deliver that. But for me personally, I get a lot of enjoyment out of consulting people, whether it's for their own coaching business or whether it's an actual business like a bricks and mortar who want to try and look at branding and how can I guess, make a bit more of a dent in the online space.
Yeah, I love that. And look, you're a little bit of a paradox, Dan, because a lot of people don't do tech well, do they?
I think a lot of people get blinded by the new shiny toys. And I think with anything in business, when you look at what you do as well, we can get blinded by new things. And maybe a good coach will delve into themselves before they try to relay it onto somebody else.
Yeah.
So in the tech space, what I always think is like everything and true mastery. So like if you can be really simple in your approach, but understanding when and where to use these different tools, that's what's most effective, right? And again, I can relate that to the fitness. If I, envisage someone who's coming into a gym for the first time in years, you're not going to ask them to do something that potentially someone who trains every single day. In business, same thing. If someone's not showing up on social media, I don't want them to try to show up multiple times a day because it's just not feasible. And I believe in, if you want to truly understand your yellow brick road, you got to take each step at a time, right?
Yeah, I love that. And I think this is a really important thing, Dan, because a lot of people who offer the dream, they offer people that they can have so much in such a short period of time. And in my opinion, and I assume maybe in your opinion, it's bullshit, right? Things take time.
I think this with things, right? So if I talk about social media, because everybody who's listening to this, it's some shape or form is on social media,
Yeah.
is that if I'm somebody who's selling a social media growth strategy or a social media course or a social media consultation, it makes sense for me to post multiple times a day and be everywhere and have a super large following because then that's the thing that I'm selling. The ironic thing though is when you're looking at, say, let's say take yourself, being super viral might necessarily be the right approach. What is actually more effective is putting out the right message for the right individual that you want to help support. Because when they do put their hand up, it's going to make sense when they come on board, like with the tools and everything that you have at your disposal, you're naturally going to be able to help them. So when I take on a business or if I take on an individual, I want to understand what it is that you do because it's not black and white. There is bits of gray area, but if we understand what you do, usage that we can put online, then it's better that you have 1,000 followers. But if you want to help support people, out of those 1,000, there's a very high percentage that are going to put their hand up because they're resonating with what you're saying. So I always try. It's always infuriated me, basically, in any industry that I've found myself in, and even, obviously, I have an amazing fiance and two young kids. So even in relationship, as an example, nothing is easy. It's how you value it, what you're willing to do for it, and then also what is the simplicity of it? What's the little things that you can do daily to improve, right? I'm not the greatest lover in terms of I'm always willing to put my hand up when I've made a mistake. I'm always willing to listen to the other side. And if we can't come to agreement, then we both agree that we don't move forward with it because we can't agree on it. And I think that's, again, something that you can relate in all aspects of your life, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's I love the simplicity of what you're saying right now, because I think in business and in everything we do make it very, very complex. And we need that first step, and too many steps create overwhelm. So how do you do your business so you're not overwhelmed? What do you do specifically to make sure you're really, you're pulled back and you're doing okay for yourself, regulating?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely a work in progress because I'm such a perfectionist in everything I do. But I have my non-negotiables. So I'm a big believer in, if it's in the calendar, there's a high level of authority or a high level of rating put to it.
Mhm.
So I tend to get up about 4:30 in the morning and I go to the gym at 5 and I get my gym sessions done before anybody else wakes. I find that when I do that, it sets me up for the day. Then I don't have to think about it. And then I'm ready to go with business and dad life. And that's
Yeah.
me, ironically, everything else falls into place when I look after myself. Like, if my business is struggling, usually then I look at myself and I say, yeah, but you were in it too much, or you're spending way too much time on it and you're getting overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Actually take a step back, go and sort yourself out. And then ironically, the world and, everything attracts in a positive way because you are in a more positive space, right?
Yeah.
I have a few non-negotiables on a Tuesday afternoon. I close the laptop at about give or take about 2:30. I go and I do about a 5K run, which for me is anywhere between kind of 25 minutes, 28 minutes. And then after that, I go and I collect my kids and I bring them home. We kind of jump in the pool. So it's my non-negotiable. Like, no matter how busy I am, I can always go back on after the kids go asleep. But it's that one negotiable. Like, even if it's pissing rain outside, it's laptop down, get out and running it. And I can't stress the importance of your own well-being because, even in the line of work you do, if I'm not right in myself, I show love to somebody else, right? If I don't actually love what I'm doing myself, if I'm not truly happy,
Hmm.
you can't be in a relationship hoping that that's what's bringing you happiness. I feel like you have to find the happiness within first, and then that makes it a lot easier to kind of share your happiness, right?
Yeah, it sure does. And I think a lot of people, especially business owners, don't put their health at the front. They put it last.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's very easy to put it to the back burner, but then ironically, that back burner ends up burning you out because, it's eventually going to catch up with you. I notice it in myself. If I sit on a chair all day and I'm deep in kind of business work, and that's kind of goes into day two, day three, day four, and then I notice that I haven't like actually moved or haven't even got like 5,000 steps in. We're not even talking about 10,000. I become crankier. I become you around, and it's like, thankfully, I have a beautiful fiance who raises that and is like, hey, can you just go and exercise, or can you just go and vent that because there's a
Yeah.
lot of tension that's built up now, and you need to get out and just get rid of it, basically. And so, yeah, I think when I'm working with business owners, you know, even if it is about fitness or even if it is about social media and strategies, everything is about being smarter, right? It's about
Mm.
not working harder. It's about actually looking at you as an individual. What is the things that you need? So if it's personal, like what is the things you need? You need to move. You can call it exercise all you want, but even just getting out and walking, if you're not, is your first step, right? Excuse the pun. And then business wise, it's like, are you putting your energy into things that you don't actually do or shouldn't be doing? Well, if you are, then can we offload that to somebody else? Can we actually get your time back? Because what happens when you talk to most business owners is like, I don't have the time.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't have the time, have the time to do these things. When the reality is you do, you just have to prioritize differently. And as I said, that's where the calendar is my first go-to. Like if I have gym session at 4:30, on in the calendar, the alarm's set, I'm up and I'm gone. Yeah, it does take a bit of motivation at times. It does take a bit of talking to myself to get up out of that bed, but you always feel good afterwards, right? And then at least you've got the whole day ahead of you then. If I don't do that, then it gets to mid-afternoon, I'm nearly having to try and persuade myself to do something, and that's when it becomes a lot harder.
Yeah, I love that. And that's I think that's one of the biggest challenges for everything. So because you've been in the fitness industry and that sort of stuff first, do people who are getting your help from a strategy perspective, do they ever ask you, well, how do I get this right too?
Yeah. Like again, I like to be vulnerable. I think it's true strength. I like to tell my trials and tribulations because I believe then they can resonate with you. They realize you are a human being. And then they're also a bit more open to you because they think you're perfect. That's why they're coming to you. But then when they realize that, okay, yeah, you have, struggles and you have challenges, cool. Now I can be more open to you and actually tell you a little bit deeper, actually what is the root cause.
Hmm.
Because if I can find the root cause of the issue and you can be transparent, then I can be a bit more, I guess I can give you more tools as to what we need, right? So if it is around strategies and stuff like that, like there's always that kind of 80-20 approach, right? We understand about 80% of most businesses, and then we talk to you to understand the next 20%. And if we can understand the next 20%, then we can give our kind of bit of flair or our touch on it. And then if it is like, for example, a build of something. So let's say you're a bricks and mortar business and you've noticed that your website is a bit outdated and it's a bit, 10 years ago when you got it revamped. And now you've realized that there is a lot of softwares out there. You get overwhelmed by it. But what we try to do is actually sit down, talk to you. What do you need or what do you think you need? Let's look at what you currently have. And then I like to phase it. I think there's too many companies out there, like what you said, you kind of mentioned earlier. It's like they kind of overwhelm people with all the jargon and then they oversell them things on things that they potentially don't need right now. We
Yeah.
do it the opposite in that we say, right, for phase one, this is what you need. And this is kind of the investment that we think. We can then get it to a point where you've justified it. And then we look at phase two, we look at phase three, and we're trying to create this relationship with the individuals, right? And I've worked with some people that have worked with you, and they can attest to this that was the one thing that they were what's the word I'm looking for? Like they felt more at ease talking to me because they realized that it wasn't just about me trying to make money from them. I
Yeah.
wanted to understand what they needed right now. And then when we understood that, we could layer on next stages when and where possible, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's something that I really loved about what I heard with the feedback from Ben and Taylor about you is that they felt safe, right? And look, as a buyer for any product, you have to feel safe that you're going to be looked after. And I, as I run an academy with lots of people in it, and the thing that's really important for me is I'm looking for good people. I'm not looking for actually brilliant at what they do first, because I know that first part, I know that they're going to be looked after by the human nature of the person, and then the strategy or whatever they do is going to be on the back end of that, because everyone can be good at something but not everyone can be a good person. And, and I think that's part of why, when I do my uncovered, podcasts, I am very picky at who I choose, because I'm looking to uncover for the people who watch this podcast, the people who could get your service and value for what you do. But first, knowing that you're a good person first beyond your skill set, right? And so when I referred you and I had been raving about you, I was like, oh, phew, okay, I did okay there, right? Because as a business owner, you want to refer the right people to your clients because it actually affects you if it's not good.
Yeah, 100%. Like I I think about this regularly. Growing up, I started working as a 13-year-old in a like camping shop, like an outdoor store. And it was one of my best friends. He's actually just selling it now. So, how many years later? And even when I went back to Ireland a few weeks ago, I went and had lunch with him because he's that important to my life. And, he felt honored that, what are we now, 25 years later, I'm still talking about him. And the point of the story was around when we were thought about selling, we didn't have terms that were put on it. We were just taught the approach, right? And so when I was selling a €2 pair of socks to an individual who has come in because they want to take up hiking, as an example, I'm giving them the same level of detail than somebody who's coming in to spend €10,000 on ski gear for their whole family. And the reason being is what was taught to us, which now I understand is LTV, which is your lifetime value, right? Which is understanding how long you're going to have that customer. But that term wasn't used when I was younger. It was just being a good human being and actually giving them the level of service that they potentially should get and not putting price wise. And the ironic thing then is when you sell somebody something and you give them value, they will sing from the rooftops to others. And they'll naturally come and work with you too, because the main focus wasn't just to get your credit card details. It wasn't just to get that sale. And that's something that stood, for me for many, many years in the different industries that I've been in, is that don't be a salesman, but offer the value that they actually need. And if you can be very descriptive and you can actually, talk to someone like a human being and give them like break it down. Don't try and confuse me. Okay, is this what I need right now? Okay, cool. What's the investment? Yeah, okay, I'm willing to invest in that. And I understand there's more investments down the road, but I appreciate that you haven't just tried to sell those to me now when, I could be blinded by all those lights. And now I've just gone, rather than say a 20K investment into, a good, decent website, you've now gone 100K into it and you, you don't.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a really important aspect of all of us. Like, but that's not normal though, Dan, you know that, right?
I, I constantly fight, especially when I was in the fitness industry, of not misleading people just for a quick dollar. And I know a lot of people who maybe aren't as educated as me, maybe have invested and invested in themselves as much as me, and they're making millions in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Why? Because they can be the charlatan and they can, you know, hit somebody at a very emotional time and make them make that decision based on,
Yeah.
not necessarily fear, but kind of the fear of if I don't do this, what's the inevitable or what's going to happen as a result. And it used to piss me off a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of the sort of person that is a boomerang. I want to throw things out there, and the right sort of people are going to come back to me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So that's like you're talking about a technique that I don't like as well. And you're talking about NLP right there. Which is one of the techniques that makes people not know that they're not getting a chance to actually say no to to an actual bot, to a seller. And that's one of those things that I've been hoodwinked by that approach by various people, and it does annoy me. All my techniques, I don't do NLP because of that reason, because it is one of those challenging techniques in the wrong hands. It's really good in the right hands. It's really, really, really good. Because you're giving empowerment to the buyer to make a decision. So when you look at the industry and you see a lot of people, and you would see that from the work that you've done, that there's a lot of people who are maybe just wanting you to buy from them. How do you stand out that makes you different? And I think people are sick of being sold to these days anyway. But how do you make yourself stand out differently to the rest of the crowd, mate?
I make it very simple. If I can't explain it to my 6-year-old kid, then I'm trying to basically convolute somebody. Because regardless of what it is, even if I'm talking like, so for example, Alara, my daughter, she'll draw pictures like every kid does. And now I'm showing her how AI can now turn that into a digital image and how now we can create an animation from it. So it's like, even in a system perspective, if I can explain it to her, then I can make it very simple to somebody who isn't tech savvy. If you know, so my approach has always been that if I just make sense and you understand very clearly like why you need this thing, then I feel more justified in, as I say, I want to give you a healthy little nudge here to make a decision because the reality is you've told me that for X amount of months you've been needing to do this or X amount of months you haven't been doing this. This is what you need right now, whether it's with me or somebody else. But I'll tell you very transparently that this is kind of the going rate in the market. Most people will try to do this. We want to show you that actually let's build the first phase so we can prove it to you. So you aren't like over investing into something that hasn't proven itself. And I've always taken that approach. As I said, working in a camping shop, I took that approach. I was one of their best sellers there. I worked in the car industry for a few years when I first came to Australia. Same thing. I think I sold 26 cars in a 28-day month. And the reason being was because I'm showing people like, this is for you. Like, you've come in here for this car, but you're telling me your income is this and this is your outgoings. You can't afford that car. And I'd rather put you in the car that you should have. And I've just always had that approach with things. And I'm not going to change it anytime soon. I feel that, you know, I believe in like the law of attraction in a way. I do believe in kind of manifestation, mainly because every time I do manifest something and every time I do look at my own health and I improve my own health, I feel like I'm in a bit better position to help others, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And so can you tell us like out of all your mistakes that you've made, what's your biggest glitch in your matrix?
Not getting a coach early enough, being too stubborn to do it myself.
Yeah.
Um, I've been online since 2017. I
Yep.
am the sort of person that when COVID came and I lost 90% of my business being an in-person personal trainer, um, about it, I went into my friend's gym at 1 o'clock in the morning and made social media videos for 3 or 4 hours. Did that for 4.5 years. And, now we have over 500,000 followers on our Instagram. And, people will always say to me, oh, what did you do differently? Like what caused it to pop off? And I was like, it was a 4.5 year overnight success. And so I think people underestimate how much work is involved to be a business owner.
Yeah.
I think everybody could do it if they really put the right level of priority on it. I think what happens is the best advice I ever got was from a guy who told me I was too comfortable with my earnings in person to ever truly make it online. So then what I did was I completely just got rid of my in-person business. And that scared the shit out of me. And guess what? I made it work online. And I felt because I was earning too much in person, then you're not, it's like you've got the parachute ready, but you don't want to take that. It's uncomfortable standing up here. Why am I going to take that jump? But the excitement, if you've ever done if anyone's ever kind of done a bungee jump or anything like that, the excitement is that just that first leap. But then after that, you're like, boing, boing. You're like, okay, just like let me off this thing. So, it's for me, it is a roller coaster as a business owner. But
Yeah.
I think if you truly want to make it, there's a few coaches that you would need, not just one. I believe that the most important coach is the person who's doing the thing that you want to do, because hopefully they can show you the steps and minimize the mistakes that you're potentially going to make.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that you have some form of a physical or mental coach,
Yeah.
because I think that's a big thing that people are neglecting is not looking after their physical and mental health. So not just physical health. It's easy to go and train yourself, but ironically, if you're already stressed to the eyeballs, the worst thing you can do is step foot in a gym and do a stressful workout or
Yeah.
stress in the system.
Yeah.
While if you have a mindset coach or you have someone who can actually kind of do a little bit of both. So our techniques are a little bit different. We have people who don't go to the gym and they work from home because for us, our work out from home, I should say. And the reason being is I don't want to put you in a stressed environment. If you're overweight and the idea of stepping foot into a gym of somebody who's overweight, that's going to have a negative association. So I'd rather you do some movement at home till you get to the stage of where you do have more confidence, and then you can make the educated guesses if you want to go. And yeah, I think it's important that when you are going for a coach, because there is a lot of cowboys out there, like what you said about NLP, there's a lot of amazing people with NLP. And,
Yeah.
depending on how much time you have, I have an amazing story on someone that NLP basically saved their life. Not from a coach, but just from them actually like studying it. It's a pretty insane story. Uh, if you do want me to tell, and I can try and make it as quick as possible.
Yeah, look, we can, if you like, you can share
It's
that if you
just,
like.
I'll tell you why I like it. It's an inspiring story. I'll really make it really quick. But I had a client who was put to me because, as part of the NDIS, this was for physical training. Unfortunately, she had lost her leg. Basically, she was born in the late 50s. She ended up with polio, slipped one night on heels, broke her leg, got gout, ended up getting cancer, had to get the leg removed from just below the knee. After 5 years of wearing a prosthetic leg, they realized that it was the wrong size. So then she had a twisted fracture in her upper leg, had to get it then removed from above the knee. And she said to me, I thought so many times about traveling to Switzerland. Like I was just asking the universe, like, what have I done to deserve this? And she definitely advocates for having that awareness of NLP in other forms, not just NLP, but other forms of just mental training to actually be able to come through something like that. Like talk about knockdowns. And, people will always say that life is difficult and they always have struggles, but guess what? Everybody has struggles.
Yeah,
And it's like, again, you put the level of importance of the thing that you want, you will strive to achieve it. If you've got too much comfort around that, you will never achieve it.
yeah, I agree. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I see a lot of people. Here's a question for you around this, around business. As you've said, it's hard, right? You have to put a lot of work in, so it's a psychological thing. Um, Survival mode, right? In my opinion, it's one of the fastest ways to move a business from A to B consciously. But how do you make sure, like when you're doing what you're doing, because you're fit and healthy, you're nice and strong. How do you make sure you don't put yourself out when you're pushing yourself so hard for you?
Do you mean like physically or with the
Yeah,
business?
physically.
Um, I would say I do a few weird things. I've got someone very close to me who lost his life at 16, and I will always look to say he doesn't have any of these opportunities that you have. And I always use that as my North Star. Ironically, his name is David. So for me, it's not always the best approach because I will always look at what's the worst case scenario. And I've been working hard now on changing that mindset,
Mhm.
and not just looking at the worst case scenario. But the worst case scenario is always how I can justify a decision. So,
Yeah,
like, for example, we probably put about 250,000 into the infrastructure of our systems last year to make sure that we can actually truly help businesses no matter how big. And for a lot of people, that's very scary to put that kind of investment into something.
yeah,
Um, and so for me, I've had to disassociate the emotions to it and look more on the what would the ROI be. And so, even in any decision that I make, I always look at like I can justify it if I feel that the return off it is more than what I'm investing in it, then it's a no-brainer for me. And it doesn't always have to be financial. Like if I was having, relationship problems and I wanted to work with you, the value to me would be not losing the love of my life. So
yeah,
that, has a value to it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be financial return, but it's definitely that's the way I look at it. Like if I'm someone who's been, 5 years of back pain and I've been taking all these drugs and going and seeing all these practitioners, and you're telling me you have the secret sauce to get me moving better and ultimately get to a point where hopefully that pain has gone away, like that's priceless. And that's,
yeah,
I think a lot of people can make a decision easier when it's a financial return, but sometimes we have a side, which is the emotional, the physical. So for me personally, I just like I've always played sports. I've always been part of a team sport, so I've always seen the benefit of having good people around you. I was always the captain of my teams. I was a free taker, so I was so used to just repetition. And that's where like when things aren't going smoothly, you ask for help. And that's where I think that's what I said earlier about being vulnerable. Like I think being vulnerable is such a true strength because I did it
correct.
last year when we had put all that money into our business and we weren't getting a return. There was a few squeaky months where I was like, I've got a team of people that I got to pay, and you know, uh, they're not going to be okay with me delaying that. And I reached out for help. We're part of the same mentorship. And I had reached out to a few people who I knew had gone very close to bankruptcy. And I got some really good advice around them. I got some really good advice from some copywriters. And I did exactly what they said. And it just got us back in the green very quickly. And, this, I think people think that like some coaches are just going to have this magic pill. But actually, when we look to it, it's about, I think in this world, in 2026, especially with social media, it's just about being authentic and being real, being a human being. There's so many things that people aren't going to believe this year. So I like what you do. You go live quite often.
Yeah.
So, by you going live, people are like, well, that's him. That's not AI. That's not fake. It's him. And I think that's something that is going to be super powerful. We've spoke about it ourselves, myself and my fiance, about doing a lot more in-person events this year, even looking into some retreats, because I feel that when someone can physically be around you and feel that energy rather than just talking through a screen. Like, I mean, even when we have chats in person, it's different than talking right now, right? Like, there's a lot
100%.
more emotion involved. There's a lot more even contact. We're human beings. We love contact. Like, it's natural.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important part of what we've got to do here is you know, as AI comes in, there's going to be a really good benefit to it. It's going to be amazing. While at the same time, it has a consequence and a cost if we don't connect properly, because it can create a disconnect from our brains and our thinking. One of the most important fundamental things is human touch, right? And
100%.
So how do you think we need to bridge this going forward with the tech age and human touch to make sure that we don't get lost? Because I see apps where, I know people have got AI girlfriends now, and they just talk to their AI girlfriend and they get an emotional attachment to that nothingness that doesn't exist. And that's could be a major problem going forward with people who get lost in not knowing how to communicate because we've gotten to a tech age of sort of like a seesaw at the moment. We don't know where humanity is going to go at the moment. It's a very, very interesting wedge that we're in. What do you think we need to do to make sure we can bridge that where there could be a real big gap?
I think the best way that you can do it for anybody listening is what can you do for yourself primarily, and what can you do for the closest around you? So challenges I give to people are you in control of your phone, or is your phone in control of you?
Yeah.
So if I go for a walk, generally speaking, if I need my phone on me, I'll put it on airplane mode, because there's nothing more important than my health and wellness at that moment in time. In my position, obviously, those who are closest to me that probably aren't on the walk are about 34 hours away on an airplane. So that I understand that can make it a little bit easier, but I always challenge people when you make these small and like these little increments, it ultimately puts you in a better position. For example, we've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we have a blanket approach. There is no phones at the table. So that's for mommy and daddy, obviously, because they don't have phones. But eventually, when they get older, at some point, they're probably going to have a phone. They don't have iPads. I have an iPad that sometimes we'll use, but generally speaking, we just keep technology away from them. And some people agree with it, some people disagree with it. But the beauty is they're my kids, and I can, again, simplify it to my daughter why we're doing it. And that's the most important part. But then what happens is if I go to a coffee shop, guess what happens? So we were out for dinner last night. My 2 kids with me. They had finished the dinner and they went over to another table and they started talking to the people. Why? Because they're so used to making eye contact with people. They're so used to, like, we'll bring games like old fashioned Uno or something when we're sitting there and having dinner. And so it's like, these are things that were tried and tested like for years. We always sit at a table. Now what happens, you see it, you go to a restaurant, there's a kid with a big iPad sitting in front of them and they're totally disconnected to the parents. So I just think it's if we can start from the ground up and we start to work that way, that's one aspect. And then hold yourself accountable. We're 2026 now. I would say since 2019 or 2020, we've just had a no phones in the bedroom rule. So bedroom is for switching off, no technology. And no matter what time I go to bed, I'll read a book. And usually it can't be anything business related. It has to be something that allows me to switch off. Because then what I find is that my stress level's lower. I'm in a better position. So then when I have to be on technology, sweet. But when I'm off technology, I'm off. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't do. They say to themselves, right, I'll get off the laptop, and then they walk around on the phone scrolling. It's like you're not allowing your brain to switch off. So from if we take approach to it, I always talk about like when somebody eats, right? If somebody is constantly eating, just like, oh, I always snack, you're never really giving your body the opportunity to investigate anything else because it's spending most of its time digesting.
Yeah.
So likewise, if you're always on technology, your brain is just going, going, going. Like even without you consciously think about it, like you doom scrolling. I see people who watch a movie and then sit there on their phone. Like I question it. Again, are you in control of technology or is technology in control of you? Because what age are you, Jason?
I am 54.
So I'm 40, and they estimate that anybody 40 and under will have the opportunity to live forever because of what they're doing with science and replenishing cells. And like, that's a scary thought because for me, there's a difference between living and surviving. And I see it in people, late 80s going into our surviving, they're not actually living. And, they're relying on other people, potentially in like homes and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's like, it's a beautiful thing to be able to switch off. I always challenge people this. So I say, if you want to be a real weirdo, say hello to a randomer when you're walking down a road. It's amazing how step back a lot of people have become. While as I come from Ireland, where it is very much a village mentality, where you would openly say hello to people. And my kids say it too. If we go out for a walk, they will say hello to anybody who walks past them. And it's amazing. The people who it resonates with most are usually the older generation. But even people my age now, they're so engrossed and just in their phone as they're out, or their headphones are on and they just can't even make eye contact. It's this disconnect, right?
Yeah, it is 100%. 100%. And look, that's one thing I do, Dan. I'm always saying hello to everyone, and people, my family was like, "Come on, Dad, stop talking to people," right? Because I've got that ability to connect really, really well with anybody, and it seems like you do as well too, Dan. I've got a question for you around business. Like, let's say someone's starting up and they're looking at all the things that are available. There's so many chocolates that they could look at the store and go and buy right now. What would be like the first thing that you would encourage them to do if they're let's say they're transitioning from nine to five to a business, or they're trying to start something brand new? What would be your best piece of advice to go do this first?
Um, would you say that they're maybe trying to be like a coach, or would you say
Yeah,
that they're maybe
they could be anything at all, but like
yeah
they're wanting to create a presence. Right?
yeah
At
I
the end of
think
the day, we want to sell something, let's say. So, what would you think would be a great thing for them to think about? Is it building a website, or is it, what is it these days?
uh for me, I would say that the most important thing that you can do is first do this. And if you're not watching this, I'm putting my hand up. You put your hand up and you tell people that you're doing this thing, and you'll be, amazed at the people who will actually support you. I think a lot of the times we're vulnerable and we're a bit nervous because we think nobody's going to actually do it. But actually, you've most people have contacts in their phone. You could definitely text them and I'm starting this thing, and I'm really excited. If you or anybody who you'd know would be interested, I'd love you to kind of send on my number. I think that's very powerful because there's a lot of people who, again, talk to the wrong person, go and invest 10, 20K on all these systems and these websites, and you might necessarily have a business yet. What advice I ever got is like create urgency or create like an audience, right? And the only way you're going to get an audience is by telling them what you do, or at least asking them. So I think for most people, creating a social media channel, whichever one you think, like Instagram is obviously one that most people will go for. LinkedIn, if you are a little bit more B2B and stuff like that, can be, quite clever. And then commit to 90 days. Now, when I say commit to 90 days, what I generally try and get people to do is post as much as you think you can do, like what's feasible for you. For some people, that might only be 3 times a week, which is kind of like every second day. But again, if we put the urgency on it, right? And, in my scenario, because of the 4.5 years of posting every day, I now get flown around the world to go and do events. I go and do collaborations with hotels in very nice places, and you myself and my family to come over for a numerous amount of weeks, and everything's covered. That feels fucking awesome, let me tell you. And for a lot of people, it's until you see those things, it's very hard to take that first step. But
Yeah.
I can assure you that not only myself, but I have taught other people how to do this. And now, as a result, they see the light. When somebody does hit their first 10K online, as an example, it's a really nice feeling, because even when I moved online, I was like, there's no way. Like, I couldn't physically like put a pen to paper as to how that was going to happen. And when it did happen, then I realized it was me. I was the person who didn't believe in it. So my blockage in my brain was the reason.
Yeah.
And I think for most people starting off is you only ever really need 2 weeks in front, right? So if you're selling an 8-week course, you only really need to kind of have the guts of the 2 weeks done. If you have the 8 pillars for the eight, now what you do is you bark from the rooftop, you tell everybody about it, and you say you have a wait list and who wants to be a part of it, and this is going to be the launch date. And the reason being is because then you can see who's actually interested. If you get 50 people, 100 people, 150 people, now you know it's worth your while. If you don't get anybody, well, now it's not time to release a course yet, because you don't really have anybody who's putting their hand up.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say this is because take it from somebody who spent 1,000 hours building a course years ago and then put it out there and no one bought it. And that trust me, it took me years to make another course after that, because that hurt. that really hurt. So yeah, don't, like, as somebody who's sells technology, don't worry about the tech until you have the business. Like, because you can fake it till you make it. You can easily sign up to Stripe to take payments. You can easily create a free social media channel and bark from the rooftop. You can create a free link tree, a web or URL page that you can put in your bio of your Instagram. These are all free. Do it, then you get your few clients, and then when you make it, you want to scale, as an example. That's when someone like me would come in and say, right, this is what you need now. If you need to hire someone, this is what you do. If you want someone to edit your videos, we can do that for you. If you want someone to post your stuff, but like, make it a business first, right? Or at least get it out of being just an idea.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, mate, is that a lot of people don't know how to put their hand up because they're frightened of the big R word, rejection. And if they get a
Yeah.
no, or they're humiliated by nothing. And like, Dan, you've had that experience where you've done something and no one bought, and and it's hard psychologically to go, well, it's like, what's wrong with me then? Is typically what we do, right? And at the end of the day, we've got to just keep putting our hands up and seeing how people are willing to slap that hand and say, I'm in. And not everyone's going to be in. Um,
Yeah, my best advice on anything is the first one's going to be shit.
yeah,
Like, your first video is going to be shit that you put online. Your first post is going to be shit. Your first course, in your opinion, you're going to think it was shit and you're going to make it better. Your first client might even be shit. Like, it's like, but that's okay. Like,
yeah,
but you're starting. I always think about it when I first learned to drive a car. I stepped into the car and there was sweat profusely dripping from me. I was looking at the mirrors, like, didn't know which pedals to use. He was giving me all this information and I couldn't digest it. It's like, just now I drive more and less in autopilot and I watch the road. It's kind of like, trust me when I say it, if you put the level of importance that you need to behind it, like in my case, I've got 2 kids that, like rare steak, and I enjoy a good red wine. So that doesn't pay for itself. So if I keep putting my non-negotiables, again, it's in the calendar. I even have like drop my kids to school in the calendar. I have write and create. So I know that I have to go in and, like, I still manually do my LinkedIn posts because I put a bit more emotion behind the writing. So I don't necessarily want that to be AI. But then in terms of like short form content for, TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, I'll batch. So obviously I've got kind of like a studio behind me. I'll batch kind of what I record. Then I'll send it to my video editors. They'll edit it, and then my admin will actually put it onto like a scheduling calendar, and then away it goes. So there's, you know, it's a yellow brick road for everybody, but you just have to appreciate where you are. I always talk about like the destination is the same, but you were starting maybe at a different part. And, you know, I can't reiterate that if you had, let's say, for example, you were somebody working a 9 to 5 and you said, right, I've got 10,000 to have. In my opinion, getting a really good coach would probably be your best approach to start off, because actually
Yeah.
a lot of good coaches will have a lot of systems in place that they cover within their program. So when you join, you get access to those things.
Yeah.
That would be my honest opinion, right? Like, because I've seen people burnt. Like they go and they buy the amazing website and they do all these things, and then they go, right, where's the people? There's no one knocking on the door.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, isn't it? Like I've gotten people to do flyers, I've gotten people, fully booked out in their business in a year, and then others it just takes longer, right? And it's really, really different for everyone, depending on what they do. I remember I got a gardener, and he was just like, he just started, and I said, I want you to knock on 10 doors this way, 10 doors that way. He was booked in a month. He didn't know what to do with
It's
himself. Just with one little simple strategy to just knock on 10 doors every time he did a job, and he just got inundated. He didn't know what to do with himself, and now has staff, right?
it's it's not like again, we can reiterate and reiterate. It's not rocket science. But
No.
the people who really do the best are the ones that just go for it, like all in. Like,
Yeah.
you look at any kind of influential coach that's in this space, it's because of the volume that they're willing to put in to get the result. And what I say to people is, it's all well and good, this ideology of what you see online, and in that you're going to be like, great, I'm going to do 4 hours a day and I'm only going to work 4 days a week.
No.
It's great to fantasize about that, but in reality, like, especially starting off, what I say to people is you can't work smart until you work hard. Because when you work
That's right.
hard, that's when you realize the things that, like, okay, I can get someone else to do this thing, but I've had to do it myself, or, like, this is where I should best invest my time. Or even more importantly, you get inundated with clients, and then you realize, okay, that client's a bad client. I don't want that sort of client. This client is the ideal one. Now I'm kind of understanding what my avatar is, and now I can try and put a bit more attention to there. But if you're not working hard, then you're not. I always say be a generalist and then focus on your specialist like part,
I
rather
love
than
them.
trying to be a specialist in every aspect of your business. I like to understand it at a certain level. At least then if I'm hiring someone, I've got a really good idea as to whether they're bullshitting me or they actually are
Yeah.
the person for the job.
Yep.
But then I understand my strengths. I apologize to my team as well, or I'll ask them like, hey, so I think it was Elon Musk who did it, where he spent 15 minutes with every employee and he basically asked them, you know, how can we better serve you? How could, what is the pros and cons of us? And so for me, I've done that with my team. I've said, hey, how can I be a better leader? Do you that you get? Is there anything else? I've always said, like, tell me the things that you do enjoy. I give you more of that. And the stuff you don't like, I get somebody else to do it who does like it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to do. And so for, if people wanted to catch up with you and they wanted to know what it is that you do and how you do it, like what's the easiest way of touching base with you, Dan? And for people getting like a good picture of, okay, if I was going to see Dan, what would it be that I would be getting from your magic?
Yeah, I think because I imagine this mainly goes out to your listeners and people in your community.
Yeah.
So I'd love to offer something. I always believe, again, we've spoke about this before, just like that positive boomerang. Anybody is listening to this, and I can supply a link, and you can drop it down below this video or wherever it
Yeah.
needs to go. And what it will be is they can and I can actually look under the hood of their business, or at least give them 15, 20 minutes of my time. And then if there is something that we could support them with, we can help to navigate that. If we're not the right people, we can certainly I've been in this space for quite some time, so I can kind of give them a bit of an understanding of who be the best person for them. But ultimately, what I love to help people with is the systems and the social media aspect of their business. So if they aren't structured, we can certainly give them free advice to, hey, why not try this for 90 days and then maybe come back and we could talk about something else. Or if it is someone who's saying, look, I'm the bottleneck here, I don't know what's happening, I got all this team and I don't know what to do, we'll certainly look at under the hood of the business and say, well, actually, do you know what? overcomplicating X, Y, and Z. Let's pull it back a bit.
Yeah, I love that. So listeners, you're getting an opportunity here to get some really important advice for your business to just to either start off or get it moving and rocking and rolling in a really, really healthy way. And Dan is, in my opinion, like that's why I've got you on the podcast. I always go with the gut feel with the people I get on my podcast. There's good person first, really, really skilled at what he does, and that's really, really important. But the goodness in what I envisage, I want everyone to have an experience to be able to buy is someone who knows that they care about you as a human being first, and then shows you how to break through the limitations to get you what you want in your business so you can actually thrive. And I think for you, Dan, you're one of those people that I don't have to worry about if someone clicks on this link. I'm going to be so grateful that they've actually got your help, your care, your support. Because look, I've stalked you, okay? And what I've seen that's more important is the way you've held your kids on your videos. You won. Okay. It's just the way you looked and you held and you laughed and you smiled. I was like, okay, he's a good man. Because I love the hard interactions of human beings. And I'm like, if he does that with his kids and the way that he interacts and the joy and fun that he does with his wife on the videos and that sort of thing, and just knows, yeah, and of course we're going to want to throw our wife's head down the toilet and flush poo in it every now and then. That's normal. But I got to see the real goodness in you, Dan. And so for listeners, please, if you're a little bit stuck in your business, a little bit lost, don't really know which area of social media to use, and you want some help, get in touch with Dan and let him give you a hand. So Dan, I'm really grateful that you said yes to jumping on my podcast and having a chat with me today. And thank you for hanging out with me and having some time.
Thanks, Jason. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We'd love it if you could like and share it with your friends. Our website address is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We also have all of the videos on YouTube under Wellness Breakthrough Academy as well. We also do small courses, live events. I have an amazing book called From Broken to Breakthrough. We'd love the opportunity to give you a hand to help you live your purpose, to find out what you're here for, to give you the direction. Our courses are amazing and we do everything really, really differently for what's happening in the world at the moment. So come and find out how we can help you break your limitations so you can live the life of your dreams. We'll chat soon.